My name's Andrew from IT, and we're going to talk a little bit today about what's new in macOS Catalina. So, as some of you may know, macOS Catalina is the newest version of the Mac operating system. You might have received some notifications that it's available for download and that it's a new version of the OS, and it might have asked you to update it. So, what are we going to talk about today? Well, first, why should I care that Apple has released a new version of macOS? How will macOS Catalina affect the way that my computer works? What new helpful features are available in macOS Catalina? What should I do to be ready to upgrade to macOS Catalina? And how do I upgrade to macOS Catalina? And if you can hear it, I don't know if it's coming through the microphone, but my tiny dog is very upset that I'm talking to you and not her. So right now, Catalina is blocked. So we discovered that there were some problems with it that made it so that some certain Goucher specific functions didn't work, and we didn't allow people to download it. But that's going to change, and there will be an announcement from IT coming from helpdesk@goucher.edu letting you know when it is available. You can also install Catalina on any personal Apple computers that you might own. So for a complete list of features and changes, because that would be pages and pages and pages, and you and I would be sitting here talking for probably 3 or 4 hours, please visit apple.com/macOS. So why is updating macOS important? So when Apple releases a new operating system, it changes a lot of the core functionality of how your computer works, sort of under the hood type stuff. A new release requires a period of time where Goucher can ensure that our operations critical software works normally on it and any required system updates to be made. So let's say in this example, what didn't work is the VPN, and turned out that became very important this year. So we needed some updates on the VPN side of things, and we needed some updates from Apple, and everything needs to work together. And once IT has determined that an update will not affect a user's ability to work, it's important to complete it. So it really helps us if we're all on the same page and we're all using the same thing. That's why earlier this year we sent that email out about how everybody needed to update to Mojave, and we were going to, send out the updates if they weren't completed, because it really makes everything a lot easier if everybody's using the same thing across the board. So why is it important to update? So updated versions of macOS are important to install for security purposes. Apple uses them as an opportunity to close up vulnerabilities that have been found in previous versions. So when there's a security flaw or something like that, these updates are where those come from. Updated versions are also important because the software products we rely on, such as Office, Acrobat Reader, Canvas Recorder, all that stuff, they assume that we're running them. We've had a lot of issues that where the software that isn't working is on the wrong operating system. So while it's understandable that you might be apprehensive about running updates because they take time and they change things, not running them can cause you as many problems or more. So, and several times this year, IT resolved a lot of issues that users were having simply by having the user run updates. We had some users who were having issues with Canvas Recorder, and they were using a version of macOS that was 3 or 4 versions back. And we tried all kinds of stuff. We couldn't figure it out. I said, hey, why don't we do this update? You're behind. Let's see if that works. And as soon as they did it, it worked. So, how will Catalina affect the way that my computer works? Hey, get out of the trash can. Sorry, that's going to happen. This is the 11th take I've made of this, and she gets very upset. So how will Catalina affect the way my computer works? I gotta. Okay, so what changes can I expect from Catalina? for the most part, if you've been running 10.14 Mojave, which is the most recent version that Goucher supported, you won't notice many differences in the interface or the way that it looks. Most settings and controls are in the same place, and the applications haven't undergone any significant changes in the way they look or the stuff's laid out. Catalina does include significantly enhanced security. So, this means that you are more likely to see a message that pops up if you are doing something that uh, you clicked on something that might not be the best thing to click on. You might see a message that says macOS has protected your computer, and you are less likely to end up with an incident that requires IT support where one of us has to help you delete something that happened. This security does mean, though, that certain older or unapproved applications can no longer be run. Now, I'll be honest here, most people at Goucher do not use any of these kinds of applications in their day to day work. I would say that because we can look at inventory and see what people are using, I would say that there are less than 10 of these applications on campus. This isn't a big issue, but it could be if somebody tells you, "Hey, I got this cool free tool that somebody wants me to, use." It might not work on Catalina, so you just got to check. So in IT speak, the nerdy language that we all use, the official guidance is that unsigned applications or 32-bit applications no longer work. So if you're looking at something and it says that it isn't signed or that it is 32-bit, you won't be able to run it on Catalina. So in plain English, this means that small applications made by an individual, but not like a big company like Microsoft or Adobe, they're no longer going to function. Additionally, most applications have been upgraded from being 32-bit in the last 6 years or so. So it is unlikely that you are using any 32-bit apps unless they're very, very old. So what kind of applications should I worry about? So the big stuff that most of us use every day, like Outlook, Word, PowerPoint, connecting to Horizon, Adobe stuff, it's all going to function exactly the same way. These apps are published by large companies which sign their work for security purposes. The signature is what's required. Small open source utilities can still be signed if their creator gets the application approved, so some of them can still work. In IT, we use these kinds of open source things to automate processes, but they aren't usually important for most individual users. And if you're unsure if an application will still work, visit its website. It's common for Mac apps that don't support running on Catalina to make this very clear on their system requirements. This ranges everything from open source utilities to different versions of creative software to even games. They will say, usually in bold text, this application is not compatible with macOS Catalina if it's not compatible. The only apps that we have seen that don't work are apps that have newer versions available or stuff that has been completely discontinued with where it's been replaced or there are no plans to update it. So now that we've talked a little bit about the nitty gritty and the nerdy tech speak about Catalina, let's talk about what it does. What are some new helpful features in Catalina? So first of all, there's security changes. Gatekeeper, which is the security in macOS, will now check every computer on your application before you run it for the first time, and periodically again after that. This is completely normal. So every once in a while, you're going to open something, and it's going to say that it's now checking this application with a little picture of a lock. That's normal. You'll also be asked to approve whether or not an application can access other parts of your computer. So, the example that I have here is that you might have to allow Word access to your Documents folder the first time you run it. And Catalina, this is a big one. Catalina now includes a built in malware removal tool that runs automatically and updates automatically. So it's going to detect any malware on your system and remove it without requiring you to run a scan manually. This is awesome. This is one of those things that um, people have asked us for help with in the past, and now the operating system is just going to take care of it for you. I this is this is my favorite right there. So, what are some other new features in Catalina? So the Notes application has had a lot of features added for sharing notes with other people, making checklists, notating stuff. Reminders, which is one that I use a lot, has gotten new functionality to set up attachments, recurring reminders, group tasks lists, and search functions. Siri has gotten smarter and can do a lot of stuff for you. That's right. If you weren't aware, Siri is on your Mac. So you can talk to your Mac and say, hey, open up that file or something like that now. Safari, if you use that, I know most people are Firefox or Chrome users, but Safari has been updated to be faster, take up less space, and has improved password management and security features. Now let's talk about Sidecar. Sidecar is a little bit crazy, but it's cool. So, Sidecar is a new feature that lets you use an iPad as an extended display for your Mac, like in the picture there. I think that is really neat. Now, granted, you have to have an iPad and a Mac running Catalina, and your iPad has to be updated to the newest operating system. So there are some prerequisites here, but that's just really cool. If you have a stylus, you can actually use Sidecar like a drawing tablet on your iPad to work on photos or design projects or even just mark up and annotate documents. Sidecar does allow you to control functions on your Mac using iPad gestures. So if you are someone who is using an iPad a lot and you know all the two-fingered, three-fingered, four-fingered gestures and stuff, you can control functions on your Mac with it. And for more information on Sidecar, please visit that very, very long URL. You can also just search Google for Sidecar Tech Brief. Um, it's going to get a little nerdy. It's going to talk a little bit about how it works, but it's also going to talk about what you need to do to make sure that it works. I think this is a really, really cool function because not a lot of people have, dual screen setups at home. I don't. I do at my desk in Goucher, but I don't at home. So that's really cool. And now we're going to talk about some other changes that are not necessarily work related. Some fun stuff, if you will. So, Screen Time is an application that will allow you to set or check limits performing certain functions on your computer. So you could set it to only allow you to visit Facebook for 1 hour per week, something like that. I do not use this. I know some people who do use this, and they say that it helps them not waste a lot of their, free time when they're just on their computer for, you know, non-work purposes. So it can be very helpful. The video quality of watching Netflix on your Mac has been greatly improved. I tried this out. I watched Avengers Infinity War because I am a giant Marvel Comics nerd, and it looked super sharp on my computer. I was really impressed. Apple Music is now built in. So this is an Apple Music streaming service. It requires a membership, but now it's integrated directly into your operating system. Apple TV is a one-stop shop for video entertainment on your Mac. You can connect existing memberships such as Netflix, HBO Go, and other services directly into this application and search for all the programs you might want to watch. So you could sign in to everything that you have, except Disney Plus. That's not on there yet. And then you can say, I want to watch Avengers. What is it on? And it's going to search and it's going to find it for you. That's pretty cool. And then Apple TV Plus is Apple's new streaming platform with original programming. Costs $5 per month, and that's separate. It's like Apple's version of Hulu or Netflix. Um, that's not something that requires Catalina at all. But as a side fun note, the morning show on that network was really, really, really good. So if you are interested in watching a very cool drama from Apple, might be worth checking out. And then syncing of mobile devices like iPhones, iPods, or iPads is now done directly in the operating system instead of requiring iTunes. So us Apple people have been asking for this for years. And then when they finally delivered it, we kind of stopped syncing stuff with a cable. But hey, there's no more iTunes to set up and deal with if you're trying to like put a whole bunch of photos on your phone or something like that. So that's still a good feature. And now we're going to talk a little bit about how to prepare and upgrade to Catalina. So What do you need to do to get ready for an update? So, first, it's very important that you back up your files in something outside of your computer. Goucher's official recommendation is to use Box, but you can also store copies of your files on like an external drive or a flash drive. So, and this is the same thing that I told people all the time when I worked for Apple at the Genius Bar. It is exceedingly rare that updating your OS can cause file loss to occur, but it can happen, and it's better to be safe than sorry. So, taking a little bit of extra time to copy your stuff to a box, to a flash drive, to an external drive, to an SD card, whatever it is, can save a whole lot of time and a whole lot of money because recovering lost data off of a deleted drive is first of all not something that we can handle internally at Goucher. It is also very time consuming and very expensive. So just taking that extra step is a big deal. You're also going to need approximately 16 gigabytes of free space on your computer to perform the update. I know that sounds big, but you're going to end up with more free space after the update is complete. You just need that much for the process to complete. So, if you're in that situation, maybe temporarily move some stuff over to, a flash drive or to an external drive and then put it back when you're done. You're actually going to end up with more free space because Catalina is smaller. So, also, you just want to double check that important applications for your work are still going to work. So, like I mentioned previously, the most common apps that we all use are all going to work just fine. But if you use something unique that I didn't mention, because I mentioned things like Office and Adobe and Canvas Screen Recorder and Skype and all that kind of stuff, that all works. But if you use something unique, you want to double check on the publisher's website. And if you need a little bit of help, you can certainly contact the help desk. We're happy to help you with that. If you're all backed up, you have 16 gigs of free space, and you know everything you want to use will work, because we don't want any rude surprises, right? Then you're ready to go. So, how do we upgrade to Catalina? First, you need to make sure that your laptop is plugged in. If it's a laptop, if you're using an iMac, your iMac has to be plugged in, so you can skip this step. But upgrades will not run on a laptop on battery power. Then you can open the Mac App Store in the Applications folder. So you should see macOS Catalina available on the front page. It's going to look kind of like what I got in the picture on this slide. After clicking on Catalina, click on the Get button, the blue one, in the upper right corner. After the App Store downloads the installer, in about 5 to 10 minutes, it's going to open up and say, installing macOS Catalina. It's going to ask for your login password to approve the installation. And then once it starts, it's going to take somewhere from like 45 minutes to an hour to complete. Your computer's going to restart multiple times during this process. You can't use your computer during this process. So maybe set it up before you go eat, make a sandwich or something like that. Set it up, I don't know, before you go to bed. It does take a little chunk of time. It is going to restart a few times, and that's completely normal. So once you see the welcome to Catalina screen, I don't have a picture of that for you, but it's just going to have a very bright white screen that says "Welcome to macOS Catalina" in that standard bold Apple font. Your update's done. So let's recap. I talked about a lot of stuff. My dog whined a lot, and she's scratching over the trash can again right now. So what did we talk about in this short little presentation? So first, wow, they all just appeared, but that's fine. Um, First, it is important for both security and compatibility to make sure that you keep your Mac updated to the newest operating system supported by Goucher. If everybody's on the same page, it's easier to make sure that the stuff that we use every day is going to work for everybody. Catalina won't change the user interface of your Mac much, but it does have some important changes to what applications it will run and how it handles security that are good to know. Catalina does include a number of helpful features in addition to these security fixes and changes, as well as a number of fun additions for use on personal computers. A full list of every change in Catalina is available at apple.com/macOS. Before you update to Catalina, you should make sure that you have backed up your important files, that everything you want to use works on Catalina, and that you have 16 gigs of free space on your computer. You update to Catalina by opening up the Mac App Store and starting the process from there. And finally, updating to Catalina takes from 45 minutes to an hour to complete, where you won't be able to use your computer. So, that's what I've got to say about macOS Catalina. So, like I mentioned at the beginning, it's not available right now. But if you've got a personal Mac, I think that's a great thing to put it on and try it out. And it will be available to install on Goucher Macs sometime soon. So keep an eye out for that email. If you have any questions or concerns about macOS Catalina, about what it's going to do, about how to install it, about what you need to do before you can install it, um, please just give us a call, send us an email at helpdesk@goucher.edu. We are happy to help you out with this. Thanks a lot for joining me on this little conversation, and I hope you enjoyed it, and I hope you enjoy macOS Catalina. Thank you.